Welcome to the show, everybody. Tonight is a couple of firsts. First, we have Jay with us. He has never been on Out of This World before, I don't think.
Oh,
And
so this is not a lot. Your live stream doesn't count?
no,
Okay.
that's different. And first time with Tristan Haggard of
What's
Primal
up, guys?
Exile. So it's our first poly on this
Don't clap.
stream.
Jazz hands.
Yes.
Clap.
No, are you guys gonna do the thing where you try to propose a polycule again? You're trying to like I hear you dropping the NLP stuff. Jay's
Yeah,
always trying to suggest these things to me. It's so getting so
Let me know
weird.
when he's done.
you can be in our polycule, but we're gonna talk about you behind your back, and we like each other better than you. So
Yeah, but that's all Jay does. All I hear from other people is like the petty things he says behind my back, the
As the
awful things
creatures
he says.
say in Animal Farm, some are more equal than others.
well,
Mm.
well, tonight we're gonna be talking about parasites. Speaking of polys and spreading of things, biological entities, we are going to find out, is a parasite a conduit for a demon? Now, this is going around the internet. I first heard of this on TikTok a couple years ago, and you remember I did a parasite cleanse. Two little droppers, once a week for once a day for 6 months, 6 weeks, and nothing happened, but I felt okay. I didn't have any negative side effects, but I didn't really feel any worse or better, but
So you got scammed by some thing that you.
I just think maybe I didn't have any. But this all made me think. So I saw a show called Our Parasites Demons, and it was on this channel called Understanding Conspiracy. And the first thing I thought of when I saw this was Stargate SG-1. Now you all remember that movie Stargate, right?
That was actually one of my favorite movies when I was
James
like
Spader.
9 years old. I loved that movie in the 90s with Kurt
Yeah.
Russell.
Yep.
So they took that show and they did a spin-off TV series with MacGyver, and a fun cast of characters.
Yeah. Very reminiscent of like Star Trek model where you have the same team of people that goes through a portal that NORAD has created, and you go to these other worlds, and then they help them social justice league type solve their problem stuff, and then they come back and then they learn for science, and then ultimately, right, there was a one of the entities who's one of the Egyptian gods from the movie, or they're sort of gods, demigods, demons, I guess. One of them becomes a good guy named Tilk, the big brother.
Yes. Tilk is a defector, and he works for Apophis, but we're getting really sci-fi nerdy right now. But the point of that is that the worms or the goa'ulds are a parasitic snake-like thing that go in your mouth and they wrap around your spine and they take over your consciousness and they can do all sorts of things. They have a hive mind and they also have epigenetic memories where they know everything that every other goa'uld knows. They have all these healing technologies, so they're basically like immortal. When they get in their sarcophagus, they can heal. So and this
I can
show,
confirm. I can confirm.
yeah, is actually
Yes,
made
yes.
in help with the Department of Defense in Cheyenne Mountain and NORAD.
Yeah, NORAD consulted on the show. Harry Dean Anderson talked about that in an interview, and I was going to put that in Esoteric Hollywood 3, but yeah.
In the original film, I mean, it's the actual Stargates are developed in like a deep black project, right?
Yes.
And these guys, Kurt Russell and this group get recruited to go into this kind of black ops project and go through the Stargate, which is kind of this funny level of it of like, is this all just a big MK Ultra thing? And they're just, they're like getting clockwork oranged and having drugs and visions and injected into their consciousness. But it's funny because there's also this religious aspect to the whole thing. I mean, you mentioned the Egyptian gods, and having not seen the series, but watch a few clips of it per your recommendation. But there was this kind of like new atheist, well, religion's just the opiate of the masses, and the Egyptian gods were kind of like these. There's this almost kind of like Gnostic
Yeah,
modern
totally not.
take to the whole what's it called? Stargate, not Star Trek. The whole lore there.
Well, they also have like the Norse gods are other types of aliens, and the Greek god and the Greys are some kind of Thor, I think his name was
I forgot the Greys show up.
Asgard.
Is
And
Thor like a is Thor like a black dude? Thor's like a
no,
brother.
he's like a little gray man, like a gray, how you would think of the classic
The
gray alien.
Greys, alien. He's
Yeah.
like an
Oh,
alien.
like so Thor is a weak little
Well,
soy
he
bug
appears
man.
as Thor, but he's really just a little gray.
Yeah.
He's just a little bug man. Oh, that's great. That's super funny. Were there any Galians? Were there like the Goa'uld, they
This was late
reproduce in this
90s,
weird
so they
way.
weren't really hyping up that yet.
Mm.
I
But
only
I
watched,
remember in the original movie there was like a kind of a Galian looking Egyptian dude. Remember the
no,
like the
yeah.
effeminate guy
He
who
was
he had
kind
the
of
really
effeminate.
pretty eyes?
Oh, yeah, they do wear a lot of makeup and gold, and they're very painted up.
They're
Yeah.
Um,
beautiful, beautiful brothers.
but so think about,
That's just called aesthetics, though.
they come down in the pyramid and they're parasitic, right? And they take over a system of a human being. And this is also like body snatcher movies. So the thing from outer space invades your body and takes over your psyche, and you are part of the
Must
hive mind.
assimilate into the hive mind.
Yes.
Well, the thing, and they're also alien. There's also this whole parasitic. I mean, the film Alien and Aliens.
Yeah.
It's a kind of an obvious one.
The movie The Faculty, like pretty much any body
Any body
snatchers.
snatcher movie. We did a whole podcast on all the body snatchers.
So Squeechers fall into that.
Little, they squeech and they get in they crawl up your nose or they crawl in your ear and they take over your brain.
Yeah.
You become part of the hive mind. Exactly.
So what we're getting at is that these things can be real, but we just can't see them. So they're in our gut. They're the candida, they're the toxoplasma, they're the tapeworms, ringworms, all those wormy things you can actually be a host to, and they can take over your decision making. So parasites have been linked to bipolar, MPD, schizophrenia, multiple sclerosis, anger, child abuse, self-destructive behavior. They can influence your desires. So that's kind of like in Stargate, when the Goa'uld is in you, you're more attractive and your eyes glow, and you like walk with a swagger because they have to reproduce. So they have to make the host more attractive. And this was even a episode. I love Futurama. Do you ever watch that? Did you
Yeah.
watch Futurama?
Of
Do you
course. I
remember?
haven't seen it in years, but I definitely watched a ton of it back in the, early 2000s.
Yeah, the one where Fry got parasites and they like improved his whole life because he was just a ne'er-do-well. But when the parasites took over his body, they made him more attractive and more productive, and like they were
Oh, wow.
massaging
That's
his
funny.
muscles for him.
Like becomes like high T, high T Zuck, Mark Zuckerberg.
Yeah,
We got the new and improved Zuck. Maybe that's what he did. They just put some
Yeah,
toxoplasmosis
right.
cysts in his brain, and
yeah,
it affected his dopamine and his because there's this whole thing with the toxoplasmosis where it affects testosterone in the short term. Apparently, it like increases testosterone in short term, but long term has incredibly negative effects on the psyche, and then also making the host more passive, right?
mm,
And because toxoplasmosis, which is all these parasites, it almost seems like they really are kind of like this physical manifestation of what one would consider like the demons, right? I mean, they influence the behaviors and the drives and desires of the host organism in order to push an agenda of spreading this destructive influence, which through their eggs and through the cysts that form in the body that then hatch out in these larvae and they infect other people. So it's kind of like this physical manifestation of the fall and the demonic influence. But
yeah,
toxoplasmosis is fascinating too because it starts in rats. So it starts in rats and then the cycle will go from rats to cats to from
Bats.
rats to pigs or
mm,
cattle, and then ultimately to the human host. Like it can affect dogs as well. But what they know it does in rats is it turns off their fear towards cats. So the rats that are infected with this, where they should flee when they see a cat or smell a cat, they become almost hypnotically attracted to this deadly thing that's going to consume them, which is, I mean, it's, you see the same thing with vice and with the passions and stuff like that. So, and then they, you know, they get consumed by the cat, and then the cycle continues. The cats pass it to the people. So then
Yeah.
the cat ladies, you know, I mean, how much of this coming election is just going to be influenced by toxoplasmosis affected
Toxoplasma.
Is
cat
this
ladies?
why I get
Well,
turned on around cat ladies? Because the vibes, the
yes.
entities are causing me to want them.
The parasites are doing sparkly eyes technique on you.
Right.
I'm glad you brought that up because they also said that parasites can make you more of like a BDSM type person,
Yes.
like liking bondage and submission and like being obsessed with the extreme of being submissive
Who said
or
this?
just like studies about this video I watched
People
about
that are
like
into that have
parasites.
parasites.
Mm-hmm.
Check it out.
And oh,
There's the actual science. I've got this pulled up right here. I sent it to you guys. Let me find the fatal attraction, a common infection linked to sexual deviance. This is from a neuroscientist. So, according to a study by Janis and Janis, 14% of male and 11% of females in the United States have had personal experience with sadomasochistic sexual practices. Although human behavior is complex, an intriguing link has been identified between sex and violence and a common parasite, Toxoplasma gondii, which is acquired from cats. It's a well-established fact that parasitic infections can change the behaviors of animals in profound ways, blah, blah, blah. So then it goes on to talk about when they did studies on, you know, a lot of this is self-reported, but they find that there are links between toxoplasmosis infection and BDSM and other sexual behaviors, and they were super strong and statistically significant. Um, yeah, so that also homosexuality, um, you know, which, you know, we all know is totally cool and great and all this, but you know, uh, yeah,
well, I found a post on that this it's a
It's
schizo and
4chan.
on.
It's
Yeah.
4chan, so watch
oh,
out.
I believe everything. Yeah, I
It's right
already
up our
accept it.
alley. So
He's over here
let's go
sending
over
you
it.
papers from like peer review, and you're bringing the 4chan. I love
She's
it.
like, yeah, well, a 4chan or a Reddit
Look,
post said
I'm
that.
just gonna bring it up and he's gonna
At
know
this point, though,
like
I would actually believe 4chan over like peer reviews. So
Dude, no, I think I actually know the posts
well,
that you're gonna.
actually, it's talking about the genetic incentive for Skittles and stuff, because it would breed itself out of existence, and he's talking about like psychology tries to like defend it, but he ultimately thinks it's toxoplasma and parasites. When it infects rodents, it alters their behavior to make them more likely to be eaten by cats. Um,
Yep.
he, then he talks about Skittles have a high rate of infection. According to National Health Institute, 70% of them are infected with intestinal parasites as opposed to
Exactly.
10% of non that way. And then,
We're on YouTube, right? So, or
yeah.
okay, all right.
well, we're not live right now.
I'll speak accordingly, so no editing will be required.
Yeah, so they're talking about the rat's behavior and like being more promiscuous because the parasite has to reproduce. And also it goes through the a hole.
The exit.
Yes.
Yeah, it goes
Exactly.
out through the out hole.
Yes.
And unfortunately, people that are infected enjoy to enter through the out hole.
Exit
You know,
only.
they
Yes.
famously
And
enjoy other
like
things.
putting their
Yeah.
mouth close to places where they should not be getting,
Yes.
right? And that's the Monkey Matt Dilla monkey pox.
Monkeypox?
Yeah.
Like Jay just
Oh,
pretends he doesn't. He just pretends to have never heard his songs. Jay's
my
too
song is not a
cool.
reference to
He's
that.
too cool
My
to
song is not
actually.
a reference to that.
Pox
Jay's
Dilla
way too cool and
monkey.
jaded to actually hear about his own like accomplishments and his great musical talents.
I feel like you guys are misusing my.
Um, but then he goes on to say maybe this is why they were so against ivermectin because it kills that, and you might not have these same sex attractions if you're not infested with these parasites.
Yeah. Well, so check this out. Another common treatment for most of these parasitic infections, including toxoplasmosis, is chloroquine and hydroxychloroquine. So both of the famous drugs that
So
were
Trump was
all of a
trying to
sudden,
cure our nation of Skittles secretly on the down low.
Hmm.
yeah, I mean these are drugs that have been used all over the world for
Did
long
you have
periods of
sequel?
time.
Okay, it's gonna be great. Nobody was gonna be Skittles anymore. Everybody be straight. It's gonna be great.
Right?
Yeah.
We'll all be
It's
straight.
straight and great.
It's gonna be great. Everybody's straight.
Just like a giant slurred, giant slurred Trump speech. But check this one out. I mean, this isn't just fringe theories by, our 4chan homies. This is like SciPost.com, SciPost.org is posting about studies about Toxoplasma gondii parasite altering human sexual desires.
Hmm.
Um, but what's crazy is this parasite. So that when you get into this stuff, you start to realize like there's a lot of there's two sides to this. There's the, oh, you never have to worry about parasites, right? Like you've got, all your farm animals need to be dewormed all the time, or they're gonna be sick and not be able to reproduce and not be able to produce or yield you good food. But and also those same parasites, you can get them and you can be a part of the life cycle of those parasites and it'll have similar symptoms to farm animals. And the farm animals we eat, most of them are treated for it in many places in the world. Some are not, and they can still transmit. But humans don't even worry about this at all. You don't have to think about this. But with your pets, right? With dogs. So here we'll use a cute prop.
Aw, puppy.
Puppies. Here. Got a
Look
got a
at him.
cute puppy prop here.
Yep.
So with puppies, when they're when the dam is pregnant with puppies, you can use fenbendazole, and it's actually recommended now to use fenbendazole to deworm from certain types of parasites for the entire pregnancy. So giving, a dose of fenbendazole every day is recommended by many vets. When the puppies are like 4 weeks old, sometimes younger, you start deworming them with Pyrantel and other more gentle deworming agents for
It's
tapeworms.
a yawn.
He's so cute, right? I love the
Yeah.
yawns. This one's awesome. This guy's really cool. So, you got to deworm puppies when they're 4 weeks, 6 weeks, 8 weeks, and then, every few weeks. And then once they're 6 months old, you do it every 6 months for the rest of their life, or even more often. Some people who have a lot of dogs in areas where there's a high parasite load deworm monthly, right? So I deworm my
Dude,
dogs all the time. Like I'm constantly doing
You see
deworming like
that
once a
clip
month.
of the when the boomer had cancer problems and he started taking the dog dewormer?
Well, yeah. I mean, that's a big. You got to be kind of careful with. Like I don't want to get anybody in trouble with YouTube
I'm
because
not
I know.
advocating that. Allegedly, a boomer.
Yeah, no, that would be so stupid to do anything that like the WHO and these
Yes.
people say. Don't do anything that anybody says except for people on TV. But yeah, that's that same dewormer that I was just mentioning that people use in pregnant dams throughout the whole pregnancy. And then they know it's safe and it actually decreases the parasite load by like 95% if you deworm the mother throughout the whole pregnancy. And you share space with these animals. You could be a part of the parasite cycle with these animals that you deworm. But in the West, I mean, the US and Canada, there's no talk about a regular deworming schedule for humans.
mhm.
But all our pets have to be dewormed constantly. I
So
mean, that should be a big red flag right there.
do animals have a lot of parasites that can be passed to people
Yeah,
or
yeah. Some of the common ones are tapeworms,
Mhm.
roundworms, um, also certain amoebas.
Mhm.
Giardia is
Mm.
a common, like, and it's more like an amoeba type thing. I don't know much about Giardia, but Giardia can pass from animals to people in a lot of places in the world. Giardia is a huge problem. And Giardia can be mistaken for other illnesses too. That's often misdiagnosed. So yeah, you could totally share parasites with animals, and we do. I mean, that's where they come from. They go from a lot of parasites will go from like tapeworms, fleas, or mostly fleas will bite a dog, and the flea bite it goes into the blood of the dog, and then that will grow into tapeworms because the fleas actually transmit it directly to the blood, and then the life cycle begins in the dog and then goes through people. Even if you don't have dogs, all your neighbors have dogs, right? Everywhere you go, there are a lot of these, animals that can carry parasites. But I'm not saying everyone should be paranoid about this or just obsessed with it, because you can go like completely schizo
Mhm.
and be nuts. But there
There's
is,
worms under my skin.
yeah, exactly. The Illuminati targeting me with putting parasites in me. I can feel them crawling in me. I
You
feel
Yeah.
ever
them
see
crawling
that
all over
that
me.
horror movie? It was, I think it's an Ira Levin movie with Ashley Judd and Michael Shannon called Bugs.
Oh, I did see that.
It's
It's
about
pretty
that.
good. No, it's a crazy independent horror movie, and Ira Levin, who wrote maybe it's William Peter Blatty, I forget, but I think it's
Didn't Ira Levin write the movie we just
no,
did?
I can't remember if it's William Peter Blatty that did Exorcist or Ira Levin that did Rosemary's Baby and Stepford Wives. Anyway, one of the two, and it basically is that it's a guy and a girl trapped in a hotel room. He's totally schizo and he's going crazy thing. There's bugs in her skin, parasites basically, but it's exactly what you're talking about. It's a pretty good independent horror movie. It's good.
Yeah, but what's crazy is, I mean, these things infect, like toxoplasmosis, 30% of people have it, and it's relatively harmless in most people, right? At least it's believed to be relatively benign.
Except in
But
the way it can influence your behavior and make you do things that a demon would make you
Would a
do.
teal swan trauma baptism heal me from parasites, or is this out of the field? Like, is this way of left field? This is not
If she
when's
baptized
it?
in
what in
ivermectin,
vinegar. Like, if she did it in vinegar,
in,
I feel like I need to baptize you in vinegar. I feel like you have parasites that are resisting me, right?
your parasites are resisting me.
Yeah,
We have to get rid of
exactly.
them.
We need to put you in vinegar right now.
Yeah.
We need to baste you.
Well,
Tristan, I apologize. You probably follow Teal Swan. Maybe that hurt your feelings. I apologize.
oh yeah.
I don't even know who it is. I just fake, like I said, I fake
You
laugh
know
when
who it
people
is? We
laugh.
we did a whole podcast on it. What are you talking about? You don't
No,
know
I
who?
do this thing where I just mirror everybody around me. So when people laugh, I just
Oh, I
pretend to
see.
know what they're
Right,
laughing at.
mirroring narcissistic technique.
I don't even listen to when you guys I don't even listen when you talk. I just mirror your behaviors and then try to manipulate you into like other behaviors that are desirable for me.
A narcissist, gaslighting, gaslighting. The vegans were right all along. They said you were a narcissistic gaslighter.
Well,
Yeah.
speaking of veganism, this is one of the things that they try and sell you with veganism is like, oh, because meat has so many
Yeah.
parasites. So can you tell us
Hmm.
that our meat is not gonna like
Does our meat have parasites,
make
Tristan?
our belly burst open with worms and maggots or
I mean, you're just as likely to catch a parasitic infection from like contaminated vegetables. I mean, when you so on farms, the fields are full of field mice. Right, like all of the vegetables and fruits have contact with like residues from animals as well. Animal manure is used to grow all these things. A lot of these things live in the soil, right? Like tapeworms. It's not just animals, is what I'm getting at. You're not just getting these things from animals. It's water. Some of them can maybe be transmitted like aerosolized, and transmit, the eggs and these things can be so small that it can travel through aerosols. That's been postulated for some of them and studied. So yeah, it's not just animals. um Cooking meat will kill many parasites. Freezing for a certain period of time will also kill parasites. So most of the meat everybody's eaten has been frozen, has been cooked. But yeah, I mean, when you look at the behavior and well, the thing with veganism is, I mean, it's inherently a nutrient deficient diet. They admit this. Vegans will admit this is why you have to supplement with all these things to even stay alive. Um, what the trade-off that you'd get avoiding every animal product, even if you assumed it to be the case that you're going to avoid these parasites that you could possibly get, that's not how it works. Even if you assume that paradigm, you're still dealing with chronic anemia, um, shrinking brain matter, low cholesterol, and thus low production of sex steroid hormones. So you have all these other factors that are going to really affect your health significantly that also make you more prone to parasitic infection, right? So a weak like a weak organism is way more prone to parasitic infection, bacterial infection,
Mm.
yeast infections, all of these things that we're kind of discussing in, and how this relates symbolically. A weak organism is always going to be more prone to that. This is why, if there's like using the puppy example, if there's a puppy that's a lot smaller and that gets pushed off the teats and isn't able to get milk. Sometimes with a puppy like that, you got to like move the big ones off the big teat and put the puppy on there and make sure that pup gets milk, because those weaker ones, if they're malnourished, they're not getting enough nourishment, they're going to be prone to infections. They're going to be prone to coccidia and these like, bacterial infections that can then kill the small animal.
Mhm.
I noticed today MTG put up a post promoting raw milk, and all of the soy scientism bros already community noted her right away with a string of links to government websites that raw milk gives you parasites and listeria, and you're basically going to die if you drink raw milk, which is preposterous to me. But how would you refute the scientism bros that tell us that raw milk is going to kill us?
I mean, raw milk is, when was pasteurization invented, right? I mean, it's a really recent thing. Raw milk, we wouldn't have our civilization if we didn't have raw milk. I mean, it's all in the scriptures as well. Like milk and honey are neither milk or honey
They didn't
are
have science
pasteurized
then,
in the,
Tristan. Science hadn't
yeah.
been invented yet.
Exactly. Exactly. So I mean you can appeal to just, the history of human use of raw milk. But also just looking at the science, infections from raw milk are incredibly rare, right? The death from raw milk is way more rare than death from pasteurized milk contaminated as well. Now, of course, there's a lot more pasteurized milk out there. But no, pasteurization is not, it's a new thing. You're killing live enzymes, you're killing bacteria in there. If you pasteurize all of, like, if you were to pasteurize the milk that you're giving to a calf, the calf is going to be sick and malnourished, right? There are living enzymes in raw milk that actually help you to digest the lactose, that help you. I mean, I don't want to go too far into that on YouTube. Honestly, a lot of these things are now verboten on YouTube. A lot of these topics, you can get soy jacked right off the platform for going too hard on some of these
Mm.
things. But
That's why we're not telling you to drink these things.
yeah, don't drink raw milk. And this is, I pasteurize this myself. I double pasteurize this
Yes,
milk
he
that I
passed
drink.
it through a soy filter, which removes all of the toxic masculinity
Yeah.
from the milk.
Yes.
Blended up parasites.
Yeah, no, this is just, and I add a tincture dropper full of toxoplasmosis
And
Yes,
to this.
cockroach milk.
yes.
Yes, it's cockroach milk.
And what was that thing you used to cover? Oat milk?
Oatly. Yeah, is that still around? That was the
I don't know.
worst. They had
That's
the
the
best
worst.
ads.
Yeah.
Yeah, whoever's writing the Oatly ads, they definitely have toxoplasmosis.
I got another question on that same line of thinking. Raw eggs are not bad either, right?
No, that raw eggs are great. Raw egg yolks are better than raw egg whites. Like there's a lot of debate on whether the raw egg whites are really that bioavailable. So, but raw egg yolks are definitely great. Yeah, raw eggs are fine.
Well,
I
the
mean, oh, here, wait. Let me just quell any dissenting voices.
Yes, except
The
the meat.
science, according to the science, raw eggs are fine.
um well, the Toxoplasma gondii parasite, that's the most successful one, right? That's the most common kind of, you get it from the litter box, and the pregnant women can't, they're not supposed to be changing the litter box because of the
Whoa, yeah, that makes sense. That I
and
can't
then
stand cats. I'm super allergic to cats, so this just goes into this completely feeds my
Me
theory of
too.
cats being ontologically
Evil.
evil. They're just bad. No, I'm
I
can
kidding.
you
like cats, but I can't be wrong.
I do like cats too, but I realized we had a cat when I was a kid and I had allergies to it, but I loved cats so much and I just thought, you know what, if I just keep exposing myself to it, eventually I'll be better.
Mm-mm.
It doesn't happen.
Nope.
It's
I
the
think
opposite.
I've tried.
cats are more outdoor animals. If you want a cat, make a cat house like a
Right, like outdoor barbecue.
no. But is it interesting that the Stargate demons are the Egyptian gods and they used to worship Bast, the cat goddess, as a vessel of the gods, and all cats were thought of as like vessels of, gods. So what if it was this
Hmm.
parasite that they're carrying?
That's what the Goa'uld.
That's what
What is
it's
it?
Yeah,
all for.
exactly.
And you know
And
what?
the
And all
Stargate
the
is this like watery abyss gate that you bloop 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 through.
Mhm.
And so our
Ooh, there you
parasites
go.
like this connection to demon maybe I mean because demons are parasites. Not all parasites are demons, but maybe all demons are parasites.
Well, demons could cause you to get these parasites, right, as
Yeah.
part of their control, perhaps.
Which can
Or maybe
influence
if you already have these parasites, uh, it can become a possible gateway for demons to kind of manipulate you, right?
yeah.
And it's I think people can tend to fall into this like physical, materialistic, deterministic worldview when they start obsessing with parasites. It's like, oh well, I cheated on I cheated on my wife because I had
Not a parasite,
parasites.
bro. So, like,
Yeah, I was sick. I had parasites. That's why I ruined my marriage and lost my family. Uh, so like it's like a way to not have to take accountability for,
it's
being
like
fake.
it's a medical devil made me do it type thing.
Right.
Mhm.
Medical version of the devil made me do it. By the way, did you hear about the Italian guy who got sick with parasites?
What?
He had to take the Toxoplasma gondola. I
So
just
you
picked
use
that up on the
racism. You
spot.
think racism is funny? That's
Exactly.
great.
I had
You
to.
think Italians are something to
There's no Italians here, so yeah. I just
You
made
let
that back
Italian.
up. Come on.
That's funny.
Toxoplasma
The
gondii.
gondola.
Get
Ew,
it?
don't take that.
Come on.
I don't want to.
No, you got to do like an Indian joke, a Gandhi, like an actual Gandhi joke.
Toxoplasma gondii. They took the toxoplasma from here.
Dr. Katzinder.
Right. They took the
Well, the Bible talks about worms that die not and all sorts of weird.
but it's not a literal worm.
I know, but and also Taoism talks about worms in the demonic realm, like 3 worms that can take over. And we did that show about gut and health, how your gut and your mind and your heart are all connected.
Yeah. Right. In the brain, like you have the gut brain axis, they call it
Yeah,
the vagus nerve, which
right.
yeah, that there's a huge connection there. I mean, I think the breaking the body down into components that are like there's this kind of Western concept of, oh, you have your mouth, and then that's separate from your esophagus, which goes into
Yeah.
you've got your liver and your stomach. And when you actually butcher an animal, though, you see like I mean, you pull like when sorry, it might sound gross or crude, but say you butcher a cow or sheep or a pig, you could pull out all the organs from the tongue down to the bottom to the anus in like one pull. Every single thing in there is connected, and there's water that flows all throughout the entire fascia system, which like the fascial network connects all of our organs, and there's electrical communication happening between all of them, and fluid exchange happens between all of them, and these transmutations of fluids is happening in the body. It's like this crazy miraculous thing in every physical organism. It's not just like a car where you've got, you've got first gear, second gear, third gear, and they just kind of mesh together. And then, if you don't put oil in there, it's not going to work right. But it's a interconnected, holistic system. And we don't even know what some of the organs do. Like we don't even have a full understanding of what the appendix does. We know it has something to do with immune function and the way that the body's immune system reacts to being exposed to different things through the gut and through the environment. But just the appendix, we don't fully understand. Things that we thought were vitamins, the most, vitamin D. People call it vitamin D, but it's a hormone that is built off of the cholesterol. When the sun hits your skin, and you've got sulfated cholesterol that turns into vitamin D, which has all these functions for the immune system, calcium homeostasis. All this is interconnected through this hormone that we call vitamin D. So we have this thing where we want to obsess over like, well, this thing just does this, and this just does this, and this just does this. I mean, the body's highly complex. Everything that's happening within the body is very complex, and just breaking it down and dissecting it into these component parts and pretending they're separate has really messed up the whole medical system, right? Like you go to a hospital, there's going to be all these different specialized doctors, right? Say you get some health issue, somebody has a stroke, and they go and they're going to see, well, you can go to the cardiologist, and you can go to the neurologist. And then within neurologists, there's going to be 1,000 different specialties on things that they actually have studied and know about, but then they have no communication with people outside of their specialty, and it creates this tunnel vision on how to treat the body, how to try to make things work. And
So it's all one, man. That's why I always thought it's all one, dude.
that's what I'm getting at is it's all one. We're all
Just
one.
read your
Your
Dr.
thoughts
Barnard
create your
Self. That
reality.
explains everything.
Yeah.
All is
Yeah.
one.
Think it,
All
dream
one.
it, do it. You know, I mean, that's it.
Well,
But yeah,
you
no,
got-
actually, so
But
that's so interesting that I forgot what it's called, but yeah, it's a tube that starts with your mouth and ends with your butt, and it's like long, and your intestines and your lips are made out of the same type of skin and everything.
yeah, and there's a biome throughout the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Saying when a baby's born, a human baby, if you're to pasteurize the colostrum, like when a human baby's born, there's like little drops of colostrum, and that colostrum coats their mouth, goes all the way down through the whole body, and builds the immune system. And the first milk that the mother gives is like it's this miraculous, beautiful substance, and this is across all mammals, right? The colostrum from cows is one of the best health foods, and it's always been used for treating immune diseases and for rebuilding an immune system after somebody's sick. It's like the traditional use for colostrum, and it's treated like it's almost like liquid gold, right? But if you were to sterilize that and pasteurize that milk, the child's gonna be sickly, right? And we also C-sections, right? Like C-section, unfortunately, C-sections are real popular now. Um, late women don't want to have, there's this stigma about like actually giving birth as if it's gonna, destroy their organs and their reproductive system down below. And there's this whole thing of scheduling your C-section, and hospitals push these. They're really profitable, right? Like especially here, I know in the US they push it pretty hard too, but here in Ecuador, anytime a woman goes to the hospital, they push the C-section. And
Hmm.
even if it's completely unnecessary, they're like,
oh,
oh,
they do here.
it
They
could
do in the
be.
U.S. Yeah.
It's crazy. And with C-section babies, what I'm getting at is talking about the biome, they're not getting exposed to the microbiome that passes out of the birth canal. As they pass through the birth canal, their immune system's also being built. So when you get a C-section, you have to have you have to swab the inside of the birth canal and then put it all over the baby, the mouth, the nose, the ears, all over the baby. Yeah, Jay's 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 thinking
I
he's
didn't
No,
know
thinking of a
this.
new
I didn't
business
know this
idea.
is where humans come from. I'm kind of grossed out. I'm starting to become an antinatalist all of a sudden.
No, Jay's rethinking his whole profession. He's
I
like, man, I
thought
should
it
go
was
back
a
to medical
stork or some
school.
shit. I don't.
yeah.
Jay wants to go back to medical school and become a C-section doctor. But yeah, you got to do that, or the health of the person, the health of that child is going to be compromised. So yeah, I mean, I forget why I was thinking of that, but parasitic infections, bacterial infections, all this stuff. It's they also pass from the mother to the child.
Mm-hmm.
And with puppies, we know that if you deworm the mother during the first 2 weeks of lactation and during pregnancy and gestation, you're going to decrease the parasite load of the ones that you're targeting by like 95 to 100%, right? And it passes through the milk. But we don't think about this with humans for some reason.
If you get super drunk, do you kill the parasites?
That's Jay's whiskey therapy.
Yeah. You notice like old crusty like boomers and like people from the South, they're always like, drink whiskey.
Oh no, I heard
If you get sick, you
yeah.
drink, you're supposed to drink like
I thought it's like bourbon.
Turpentine.
No, not bourbon. What's that? The one that's kind of sweet, brandy. They say when you get a cold or something, hot brandy, you drink a whole glass of it and put a bunch of towels on you and you sweat it out. That's like
Oh,
the old
I have
hillbilly.
experienced, I've tested it when I've gotten sick and I don't drink anymore, but this is like back when we started dating.
It's like last week.
Yes, we started dating like
I
last
don't
week.
drink anymore, but yesterday.
No, when I got last time I had like a high fever and she was tending to me. Um, and I drank whiskey, and it I sweated it out that night for sure. So,
She just
Hot
puts a
heat.
but
funnel
then I
in your
read a
mouth
thing
and
saying that you shouldn't do that. So,
Well, I heard the old method was turpentine to get rid of. I'm not saying do this. I'm just saying people used to take sugar and turpentine to get rid of parasites.
well, turpentine is just it's called gum spirits turpentine. That's it's like the essential oil from the pine tree.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a real popular remedy. And you can look at old kind of folk medicine books. You might be able to find some of them still on Google Scholar. Or the Google Scholar's gone, but you could find a lot of these books still online. And this was really popular from like our grandparents and our great grandparents. Um, that was like the remedy for colds, rheumatoid arthritis. They would use it for certain parasites. But there's this new internet lore now from this guy. Have you seen the video? The guy that says he cured his Skittles through turpentine.
No, but that's exactly what we were just talking about. That
You were gonna suggest that I take turpentine.
maybe it's time to break out the turpentine.
Yeah. Oh, I should have brought this prop. I'll go grab it in a second.
Okay.
There's one. Yeah. Well, let me go grab something. You'll like this one. This will be funny.
Okay.
do you want to pause it?
Do, do you want to do a parasite cleanse? No.
You don't think I have Skittles parasites?
No, no.
So
She just
there's a
told me to do
video.
it. She just told me to do a parasite cleanse, and I'm like, do you think I'm Skittles? Like, I'm totally straight. What do you mean?
Speaking of parasites, hey Jay, no. So
Speaking of
there's
parasites, my boomer wife. Right.
this video on BitChute or it's like it's probably on BitChute and Rumble, but not YouTube. But this guy says he was like flaming, raging, aggressive Skittles guy, like lived the lifestyle, right? All the things. He said he used to in the video he says all he would get periods where all he would think about and see in his mind's eye was eating Skittles, basically, right? That all the stuff. And he said he was just, he heard because he was sick, he was having some certain issues with his health, and a friend told him about parasites and he started looking into parasites. He got parasite pilled, right? And he read about what can happen when you get parasites. Then he decided to, he says he did he did like turpentine or something. I think it was turpentine. And it cured him completely. After a few months,
Hmm.
he was absolutely horrified by his previous behavior, said he was just totally disgusted by all the things he used to do, think about, envision, and act out on a daily basis. And since then, has been 100%. He just stopped eating all candy. No more Skittles for him. But this is why I was thinking about if there's a product down here in South America that we could we could maybe bring to market in the U.S. And I was thinking maybe Jay
Y'all know
could
that
be a
I'm straight,
spokesperson
right?
for
You
our
guys,
company.
this isn't some like subtle intervention. You guys both know I'm straight, right?
I'm
No,
scared
I'm
to
saying
use
you could
that
be the
word.
spokesman for this. Of
I
like,
feel like I was invited to a podcast and it's an intervention. I'm
this
not.
isn't intervention, Jay.
That
We need you.
that's gonna happen in any polycules. They're gonna turn on
The
all the
polycule's
children.
turning on me.
Well,
I know.
speaking of that, wouldn't
You get power.
wouldn't
You
that
get
be
power
a
games.
bigger chance to come across infections and stuff if you're swapping biomes with a lot of different people?
Well,
in the
exactly. And what greater way to spread parasites than to, engage in things where different biomes that shouldn't be touching each other are touching each other in those areas? Because I mean, also when you look at the science and the studies, it talks about how, these parasites will turn fear into sexual attraction, right? This is
Mhm.
one NBC News article. Mind control parasite turns fear into sexual attraction.
Hmm.
And this has been known for a while. Like the things you should be afraid of, and this is why like the violent acts that the BDSM type people get into, there seems to be a connection here, and the science says that there's a study here from, let's see, where is this? Uh, Community of Integrated Biology. Does toxoplasma infection increase sexual masochism and submissiveness? Yes and no. So, so it's like there is a connection. It seems to be a strong connection, but then there are also, oh, there's socioeconomic factors, and it's also fine. It's like if you just like it, you like it. I'm sure that's where they go with the study. But yeah, behavior modification through these things is something that's been studied. Why not? Why would somebody not, try and maybe even possibly weaponize something like that? It would make sense if you're,
Mhm.
evil Bond villain type guy to,
Well, I mean, you've seen the old clips about the Pentagon studying the GAY bomb, right?
no,
I'm serious.
really? Like
I'm 100% serious.
it was a chemically induced
Mhm.
Skittles bomb?
Yep.
Well, do you remember what they put in it?
I don't know if the news clip says what the ingredients are because it would obviously be, I think, classified, but it was a mainstream news clip. Alex used to play it like back in 2008. You can still find it on like probably BIT shoot.
Yeah.
Yeah, just look that up. Pentagon GAY bomb, and it's a biowarfare attack that they were going to use against Saddam. Um,
Wow.
you know,
You're gonna turn him gay? Like we just turn Saddam gay, then we'll
well, the
win.
idea was that they would test it out on his troops and see if they all went after each other.
If they like turn the elite in Iraq gay, then they can make it a neoliberal paradise and like free markets.
Because they're going
Everyone,
to turn it gay anyway. So, right?
Well,
that's wild, man.
part of the parasite lore is that you become more hive-minded. And so, do you think this could be part of the NPC phenomena that we're seeing?
Hmm.
People not critical thinking, individual thinking. It's very like,
I think that could be that,
yeah,
but these people are partaking of a spiritual thing too. Like they're
right.
part of a spirit. They're partaking of a spirit, which keeps them willfully blinded.
And the
That's what I
parasite,
think ultimately the parasite thing is. It's like we're seeing we're like projecting this physical manifestation of spiritual phenomenon, and there seems to be correlations, right? We know that there's like, there's substances that one can take that can open up demonic pathways, right? Somebody smokes certain substances, they're going to have encounters with like the demonic with, they'll call them, self-transforming machine
Right.
elves or
Machine elves, yeah.
you go through the Stargate.
yeah, so I mean that's what those substances do. So it wouldn't be a far-fetched thing to see that, well, then maybe there are physical reflections. Like the
Right.
physical world reflects the spiritual reality. And this is in like you mentioned Stan Eloy's book in the post you made recently, Jay. You reposted that thing on Twitter about the books that you recommend. I don't read books. I've never read one, but I've heard that they're good. And I heard you like to read them. But yeah, Demetrius Stan Eloy,
Well,
I
you got
think
to do the times tables and stuff like we're saying. Learn the days of the week first, the order of
that's what
those
I'm
days.
saying. Yeah.
Like we were
No,
talking
it's
about.
yeah. No, I mean my wife's teaching me to read the spinning clocks, and I'm getting pretty good. I'm getting
Yeah.
pretty accurate at that. I'm usually within like a few
Jamie
hours.
can't read this spin.
What's the point?
So, well, but what was I saying? Something so not important, I guess. Yeah, I forget.
Parasites.
Oh, Stan Eloy's book. So in the second book, I think it's like the second book of his The Experience of God, like the series that he
Uh,
wrote. It talks about how the physical world reflects
yeah.
man's spiritual state, essentially. I mean, this is basic Orthodox theology that the physical world it does reflect man's spiritual state. This is the effects of the fall, man's fall affecting all of reality and all the creatures within the reality too. So I think if one looks at this through the Orthodox Christian perspective, it does make sense that these physical things would reflect the spiritual state of man, and then the spiritual state of man
Yeah.
being so depraved and being involved in, partying in the way that certain communities party, group parties together and all the gross things that they do with each
Right.
other, how this would spread more of this, illness and sickness, and the wages of sin is death.
Right.
So, and this is yeah, so I mean, having cats, you get what you deserve. No, I'm kidding. Um,
Well, so
um,
so if you lose your hair, for example, what vice would that reflect?
Mm, you make them cry.
Exactly.
No,
Well, you say
we're nice on my channel to make them cry.
I'm too mean for Jamie's channel. That's why I've never been
Yeah.
invited on here. I'm too mean.
yeah, we'll see if you ever get invited back.
Chris, I apologize. I should not. But you said that the exterior reflects the interior. I was just trying to figure out
Yeah, well, maybe what is being a
what that
big,
means.
stupid, poopy jerk
Exactly.
reflect
Yeah,
that you
right.
are, something like that, maybe.
Oh, guys. Have you heard that the candida will make you have cravings for sugar?
Yeah.
And people are realizing that at a certain time, they tell me like 8 o'clock, I want this sweet stuff, and they're like trying to resist.
Well, the parasite is very, it's hungry. It wants like
Yeah.
dinner time, right?
Yeah, but it's for
Yeah.
specific candy or whatever, and they're like, I have to say no to it. At this
Yeah, it's
certain
interesting. There's
time.
like a rhythm too, and
Mhm.
and even with other parasites, there's a rhythm that syncs up with environmental rhythms. So like when you do deworming, you want to do around the full moon, the egg cycle and the reproductive cycle of them is yoked to the lunar cycle.
Are
So
you being serious?
Yeah, I heard that
yes,
too.
I'm dead
Oh,
serious.
wow.
So
That's why people
you
are crazy on the full moon because all their parasites are hatching and doing.
right? I mean, it could be a part of it. But you do when you do deworming, they know that you're supposed to do it around the full moon to try to get the eggs when they're hatching. And then you certain types of parasites, you don't just do like one deworming. You kind of want to do it in a few months at kind of undulating frequency to hit them at the specific parts of their life cycle in order to get rid of all of them. Because you can get rid of the adult worms and some of the larvae, but then there'll still be eggs that are around that'll hatch, and then by the next month you've still got more eggs that are hatching out and starting the cycle again. So you want to hit them a few times.
Hmm.
So this is why they recommend with puppies, talking about dogs, you do if you have they call it tenia here, tapeworm. For tapeworms, you do it 3 to 5 days in a row, and then 2 weeks later you do it again to try to get all the stages of the cycle for that period of deworming.
Have you done a parasite cleanse yourself? Like, is that something you ever tried?
I intentionally my body is so strong. I just intentionally take on parasite loads. I take upon myself the sins of the
Or like
world.
Bruce Lee, he had like a high pain tolerance. He's always trying to, you want to see how many parasites you can get to get
In
rid of.
order to collectively raise our
Yes.
consciousness,
Yes.
I
You do.
take on all the illness of mankind. I'm basically like a new age. Um,
You're like that black dude in that stupid Stephen King Green Mile. I hate
Oh, man.
just
takes
like
all
him
the
in
bugs
every
away.
way.
Yeah, that's really dumb.
Yeah. No, I definitely, man. When I first heard of this stuff, I was dealing with health issues in like 2008, and I remember doing some certain herbal stuff that really tasted awful, and getting rid of a like major. I remember. I mean, I don't want to get gross about it, but yeah, a large parasite came out, like long roundworm
What?
type looking. Yeah, it was really gross. I remember when that, and then I felt completely different. It was really weird. Like I had, I was doing kind of more natural stuff, but now thinking back, I would have used something a little bit more
Different.
conventional that you'd use for livestock. But I wouldn't recommend that for other people. But that's what I think is.
Do you think that was that like from California, or is that something that happened when you were there?
This I was living in California at the time. Yeah, I mean, it probably had it since it could have had those type of things since I was a child.
Right.
Right? It could have been something, who knows? I mean, I grew up in suburbs in California. It's not like I lived on some farm and it was like, you know, living in a pigsty and accidentally consuming pig droppings or something. No, it was just normal suburban life. But yeah, it was some sort of a parasite. I didn't get it tested or anything, but I remember when I remember passing this thing. I haven't thought about this in a long time. I remember just as soon as that thing came out, it felt like my vision improved,
Hmm.
right? Like I kind of just felt like the room felt brighter
Hmm.
and I just kind of felt better. It was
Wow.
subtle, right? It was a
Yeah.
subtle thing. It wasn't like, whoa, I have supervision now, but it was like, whoa, I feel different
Was there a
immediately.
little bit of sadness? Like maybe you guys have been kind of attached for a while. You're kind of
I
like
put it in a jar. I bring it around with me places.
He's
It's on my
funny.
dashboard in like a little snow globe type thing.
that's like that's I stole that from that comedian that Joe Rogan had on. I forget his name, but he's always playing a good
Joe Rogan, is that like a black Joe Rogan? Joe Rogan.
Joe Rogan.
I'm going on the Joe Rogan show.
No, he
Rogan.
had that comedian on Harlan Wilson or what Harlan Willis.
Oh,
Harlan.
that guy's so funny.
He
I
had him
saw
on
clips from
and
that.
he
And he
kept
was just Harlan was being so hilarious and Joe was
Joe's
like
was like, oh
pissed.
yeah, is that real for real? Or you being
Yeah,
serious?
he wouldn't feed into the bits at all. I don't know what his deal was. He was in
He's
a
like,
bad
yeah,
mood or
what did
something.
he said something about I've got this parasite, but like I don't want to get rid of it because I'm close, we're kind of close now. It's like Joe Rogan's like, are you in for
What are you
real?
talking about, man?
For real?
Have
Do you
you
think
ever
chimps
heard,
have parasites? You ever seen a chimpanzee like fighting?
well, have you heard women taking tapeworms to lose weight so it can eat the food for you?
Yes.
Oh my
I
gosh.
wanted to bring that up. And there's also this whole world of helminthic therapy where people will take whipworms and infest themselves with whipworms and intentionally to cure their allergies, like seasonal allergies. They'll give themselves whipworm. There's this whole world of people who are like, all this parasite stuff, bunch of propaganda, bro. A lot of these are good for you.
They're parasite maxing.
They're parasite maxing. There are
Oh my
people that are
gosh.
parasite maxing, and it's helminth therapy, and they give themselves certain parasites to deal with autoimmune conditions and stuff. I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm just like, I mean, there seems to be some studies and stuff behind it. I've never gone too deep into it, but I've talked to some people that were into that, and it was kind of mind blowing to hear at first. But some of these people swear by it. They're like, yeah, every couple months I order some whipworms and I intentionally give them to myself so I don't have allergies and I feel great. It's like, wait, what? This is crazy. But yeah, that's the other side of the
Did
coin.
you ever have a ringworm when you were a kid?
Well, ringworm is fungal.
Uh-huh.
That's like
Have
it's
you?
a fungal infection.
It's just like a little circle. You get a little circle and then you gotta put a cookie
Yeah.
in it.
Yeah, I never had that when I was a kid, but kids that play out in the mud and stuff, they can get it. And then what's that thing? Foot and mouth disease is like a similar thing, right?
Mm.
Kids get ringworm from playing in dirty ponds and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, RFK Jr. God, remember the brain parasite thing? Everyone was ripping on him a few months ago. He had got because a lot of T. gondii, toxoplasma. When you have toxoplasmosis, which is like the infection, you can get cysts in the brain, and those
Mm-hmm.
can present as seizures. So some people can think they had like a seizure, but it's really from a small cyst in the brain from toxoplasmosis. But then there are also other parasites that they're relatively rare, but more common than you think. But RFK Jr. had got a brain parasite from I think swimming in some pond, maybe somewhere in
Yeah, I
New
remember
England.
saying that. Yeah,
How do you get rid of it?
I don't know.
Neuralink, the only way to get rid of
Oh,
it.
he shocked it to death. That's so crazy.
No,
Well,
the zappers. The zappers? Remember those?
yeah, he bug zapped his head.
He like cut his head open. He put a zapper in there. Trump holds the remote.
I've been reading Screw Tape Letters by
So
C.S.
good.
Lewis.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite
And
books.
there is a part in here about how the demons feed on us just like parasites feed on us.
Garmonbozia.
What's
Yeah.
the parasites? What's the demon's name though? In there, there's Screw
Um,
Tape, and then his nephew's
yeah.
name is like something Worm,
Oh,
right?
it is.
Yeah,
Hold on.
Wormwood, isn't it?
Is it Wormwood? I was.
Yeah,
I was looking.
Wormwood.
Wormwood, huh?
Oh, the demon's name is Wormwood, yeah. And he says, to us, a human is primarily food. Our aim is the absorption of its will into ours, the increase of our own area of selfhood at its expense. But the
Dang.
obedience which the enemy demands, the enemy here is God, because he's a demon, demands of men is quite a different thing. One must face the fact that all talk about his love for men and his service being perfect freedom, mere propaganda, but an appalling truth. He really does want to fill the universe with a lot of loathsome little replicas of himself. So this is like the parasite wants to just replicate itself, and the demons but God wants us to be distinct also.
True diversity, man.
He says we want cattle who can finally become food. He, meaning God, wants servants who can finally become sons. We, the demons, want to suck in. He wants to give out. We are empty and would be filled. He is full and flows over. Our war aim is a world in which our Father below has drawn all other things into himself. The enemy wants a world full of beings united to him, but still distinct. So that's
It makes me think of like the physical, right? The physical parasites, what they do is even besides the schizophrenia associations and the psychosis that can be caused by some of these, but they take your nourishment, right? They take the energy that you're supposed to turn into your life force. They take that at the physical level. So it's kind of just the physical manifestation of what's happening in the spiritual with, it's almost like a lot of the things in the physical world are in some ways symbolic of greater spiritual realities. They're reflective, not purely symbolic in that way, but they're real and symbolic, both and type of thing. And so they'll make you anemic, right? And that iron in your blood is what carries the life force. The life is in the blood. So making your blood weak, weakening your blood. And that's what sin does too, right? That's what our what the passions are notorious for doing, stealing our real life force, which is our connection to the divine energies of God, God's grace. So it all really makes sense, and I love that book. See, I wish C.S. Lewis was such a great writer. He was very
and
that's
it
one of
just
his
so
best works.
happens that fasting is one of the best ways to get rid of these things, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's
Mm-hmm.
kind of built into our beliefs, and a lot of the dietary laws, I think, in the Old Testament were given as anti-parasitical, antibacteria
Probably.
guidelines, don't you think?
Well, there's an element of that. I mean, ultimately, the meaning of those things was spiritual. So we can't fall back into thinking like, oh, if we eat the Old Testament diet, we're holy and
I don't eat swine. It's filthy. A swine is a filthy animal.
yeah. I mean, this is like Muslim type thinking.
A lot of Protestants get into that too now too, of like, well, we got to keep the old dietary laws. And
Yeah, it's Judaizing heresy. So
yeah, shrimp is it's a bottom feeder, like stuff like that. But it's funny because a lot of their justifications for this stuff of like, I think there could be cultural and at the time, like with swine, right? In a lot of the cities, they were kept in really close quarters, and there
right.
could have been unsanitary conditions that would lead to it. But they were also used in ritual sacrifice. So there's like the spiritual use of the animals, and then maybe the spiritual use of the animals also reflected in the physical health of some of these things that they were eating. But
Well, the problem, yeah, the primary meaning is that there's a correspondence between what, say, the unclean animals flock to, like they would eat carcasses. So you can't eat an unclean bird because it flocks to, like a buzzard, it flocks to a dead carcass. That's supposed to teach you to avoid the vices because the vices are like spiritual death.
What about like Beelzebub and Lord of the Flies, and that flies carry like eggs and
Yeah, well, I
parasites?
think that
that's nonsense. I eat flies all the time, and I'm fine.
I mean, I think there's supposed to be a connection between what flies do and what, I mean, they come out of trash, they come out of, rotting carcasses, they fly to poop. I mean, exactly. I mean, it's symbolic.
Mhm.
But it's funny when you talk to people who get obsessed with like a lot of Protestants. I mean, I know so many Protestants who at least went through a phase where like I don't eat pork, man. And what they always default to is they'll say they're filthy animals. They don't have sweat glands, so they can't detox. Right. And that's like what a lot of the brothers and the Dr. Sebi type guys, they get into like kind of veganism. A lot of black dudes they get obsessed with fruits and, we got to go back to the pure sun energy, the solar energy of fruits. And they'll talk about parasites and stuff like that. But then they'll also talk about the uncleanness of animals, and pigs are bad because they don't sweat. But people who eat like chickens don't sweat, cows don't sweat,
Yeah.
sheep don't sweat. None of the freaking ducks don't sweat. None of the
Fish
foods
don't
you eat
sweat.
sweat. Yeah, fish don't
Oh, there's
sweat.
no sweat. Boom.
Yeah.
Come on. So like it's such a stupid thing. And then the shrimp are bottom feeders. Bro, what about cows? All they do is they're just bottom feeding off the grass, man. You know, they're just eating off the floor. I mean, this whole thing about bottom feeders, that all these weird justifications that people have for like they try to physicalize the Old Testament laws, and it always ends up being really dumb justification. It doesn't even make sense when you know anything about animals, especially livestock. So yeah, I think that's a funny one that I just known so many weird Protestants who try to Judaize with that. So, anyways, yeah, don't be. I ain't afraid of no swine. Isn't that a line in Pulp Fiction? It's like pigs are filthy animals. I don't eat
Oh, it
pigs; they
is. Yeah, you're right.
filthy.
About sushi, I've heard that that can have.
Oh yeah. Well, you can definitely get parasites from raw fish.
Okay.
That's true.
So,
Well, that's why they have to make sure they make sushi at certain temperatures. It can't be.
Yeah, they freeze it really low temperature or something. And if you get salmon at the wrong stage, at
Yeah.
like the wrong time of year, um, then you can get heavy parasite loads in salmon too.
mm,
I love sushi, but yeah, that's definitely you definitely can. But also there's this you have stomach acid. Our stomach acid, a lot of people have very weak stomach acid, but the stomach acid is also supposed to take care of a lot of the possible infectious things that will go through the stomach. So we
mm.
have super high concentration of stomach acid if we're healthy, and that will help break that stuff down is another one of the kind of apologetics that people do of like why you don't need to worry so much about parasites. I don't know the proper level of how much to worry about parasites. It's
How do
something
you
that
even test for such a thing? Like, do you have none or are you infested? How can you tell?
I mean, I do psychic cleansing and stuff, so I'm
Um,
somebody could do a
Yes, 5D consciousness.
okay.
yeah, see, you're gonna want to consult with an Akashic Records reader.
Pretty much him and Corey Feldman are like the only people that have 5D consciousness right now. And
That's
David,
Teal
yeah.
Swan does too.
That's
David
me and Corey
Wilcox
Feldman's new
can
band name is
tell,
5D Consciousness.
tell
You
you.
know, you do know who Teal Swan is, right? We did this whole podcast. You don't know who Teal Swan
Are
is?
you talking to me again? I just zone out when you start speaking. Were you saying something to me?
You know who Teal Swan is, right?
Yeah, I love Teal
Oh,
Swan. She's amazing.
Yes.
I like Jay's got a great Teal
She's
Swan impression.
amazing. She's
She's
amazing.
he's been baptized
amazing.
by her, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, Teal Swan. I mean, I remember Teal
Well,
Swan back in like
dude, we
the
should start a deworming cult and like actually help you.
that. No, that's what I was getting at. That stuff kind of exists. People like the fruitarians and stuff. They get
Yeah.
so obsessed with, parasite cleansing, but you got to use natural stuff. You can't use the big pharma Babylon medicine. You got to do, pure herbs
I
and
do a Rasta cleanse and not
Yeah.
use the Babylon medicine.
yeah, bro. It's if you just smoke enough weed, gets rid of all of them, dude. I'm sure there's
So,
people that it's like weed is the greatest dewormer, and if you smoke, you don't get parasites if
so
you
wait a minute.
blaze up every day.
So basically you're saying that you can go crazy with this as with anything, but there is a principle to parasite cleansing. And also we want to ask you before we close it off. I'm assuming you're done because you're closing your books.
Yeah, I'm done.
What about red light? We didn't ask about red light.
With parasites and stuff, that I don't know how much that would tie in, but just with general health, right? Like the light you're exposed to, that's definitely a thing, right? I mean, when you think about when you're a kid and you watch a lot of TV and you just feel zonked, right? Or if you're doing a lot of work in front of a computer, your eyes get all weird. You
Yeah.
feel the physical effects, right? Like it drains you, it kind of drains your energy, and that's literally what's happening is blue light triggers certain hormonal effects in the body, right? So you wake up in the morning and you have natural sunlight, and there's blue frequencies in the sun, right? There's also a lot of red, near infrared. It's like the way you measure light frequency is the sun has the full frequency of all light, but a light bulb is going to have just specific frequencies of light. And the old incandescent bulbs
Yeah.
had blue light, but they also had red, infrared, and they emitted heat. They're basically they're not illegal, but they're not produced anymore. If you remember
Right.
under Obama, they had this
Yeah,
whole
they're
transition.
Obama bulbs, right?
Yeah, so all the energy efficient bulbs that the Obama administration kind of helped to shoehorn in, these are the flicker rate on those affects your consciousness, and that's been studied, right? The flicker rate on your screens that affects your consciousness, affects dopamine production.
Yeah.
It affects your hormones, your hormonal state. And then there's also beyond that, they've done studies on, hypnotic states with the flicker rate, and that's why certain frequencies, the frequency of the flicker rate was selected with LCD and LED
Yes.
screens, is due to that hypnotic effect. This is why children, all the kids are freaking, sadly, all these kids are
We're
autistic
dumb.
now. Their parents put them on iPads when they're 6 months old and they're playing video games on iPads. But you see the effects of it. And so the frequencies of light we're, we're absorbing through our eyes in the morning, blue light tells us to wake up and make cortisol, right?
Right.
Cortisol raises our blood sugar. It's a good thing. You have to have cortisol. If you have no cortisol, you're not waking up. You're going to feel like crap. If you have too high cortisol, your blood sugar is going to be high chronically. You're going to feel a little bit more stressed, right? It's a stress hormone. And stress hormones aren't bad. Adrenaline's a stress hormone. It's
Mhm.
good every once in a while, but if you're addicted to adrenaline or if you're constantly spiking your adrenaline, it's bad. Same with cortisol. So in the morning, blue light from the sun tells us wake up, you're alive, go work, go do stuff, live your life, go outside, right? Um, but at night, we've got artificial means of shining those light frequencies into our eyes, and that it kind of hacks the system. It tricks the brain into making cortisol, into being awake at nighttime hours, and there are like negative physiological effects to it. We're very resilient creatures, and we can adapt to pretty extreme situations, whether it's extreme cold, extreme heat, right? People live in really difficult, harsh environments. I mean, you guys are in Florida, and I can't imagine living in Florida without central air, like without AC, But people did for a long time. Just became a normal thing to have air conditioning, and so we're really resilient creatures, and we can adapt to a lot of this stuff. But the light that we're exposed to consistently, it has negative effects on us. There are effects that can long term lead to increased cancer rates, and this has been studied. We know this actually during the MK Ultra experiments. A lot of the stuff that they were doing had to do with, with lights and the effects of light for torture, keeping people awake for extended periods of time to induce that state of hypersuggestibility. And it's kind of weird though when you think about it, all this stuff, all the tech we see now is and all the cybernetic stuff. I mean, Tim Leary was obsessed with all this stuff, and the whole big tech industry that came out of Silicon Valley was kind of built on this, like the mind control experiments, right? I mean, Stanford University was central to all of this.
Right. That's where DARPA comes out of. Yeah. And the internet.
Yeah.
Yep.
So ARPANET, all this stuff, all this being wired in, at a certain level, it is all connected with those experiments that were happening in the 1950s and 60s. And anyways, long story short, red light is something that when we're exposed to certain frequencies of red light, it's really good for us. It helps us to produce melatonin. It helps to reduce inflammation in the body. So like one of the things that I think is worth it as far as like a lot of these biohacker dorks, they're so obnoxious, and the esoteric health people on Twitter have made everything just seem so fake and gray.
Yeah.
But the red light thing is for real, right? Like this nice red light, like the medicinal kind of red light panels, or you wouldn't call them
Are,
medicinal.
are
But
you in a red light right now, or is this just aesthetics back there?
I have, well, so I got this whelping box behind me. I've got a bunch of puppies in there a bunch of puppies in the whelping box, and that's a red light right there,
Okay.
right? So I mean, it's an LED light. It's a
Okay.
pretty cheap one.
Is it
But
any red light?
Yeah.
Any
well,
light that's
not
red or
there's certain frequencies. So you want like red, there's like the 810 to 870, I think it is, nanometers. Then there's the infrared, the near infrared rather, which isn't really visible to the eye, but emits some warmth. And that near infrared penetrates really deep into the skin and like through muscle tissues, and actually helps to like heal, it helps the body to heal quicker.
But is this going to make me prettier or not?
Yes. No, but I mean,
That's
that's
all I
really,
needed, man. That's all I needed.
No, well, I mean, to be honest though, like it's really hard. Like when somebody reaches a certain level of prettiness,
Yeah,
it's hard to improve on that
true,
prettiness.
but still.
So now it might not be perceptible to the normal human eye.
But to the trained eye,
It's
yes.
not gonna like to turn a 9.99999 to a 9.9999999.
Yeah.
That's what we're probably looking at with an
So
Isla
the answer is
Diva.
yes. Red light
So
will make me more diva.
and so
But
like
yeah, no, it can improve your skin. You can improve skin with it. You can improve blood flow, right? It kind of like helps your body to release nitric oxide and improve circulation, and healing injuries, deep tissue injuries. They have like if you get a surgery or something, they have this thing called cold laser therapy, and they're using those frequencies of light with a really high powered device and kind of hitting your deep tissues with those lasers with those frequencies. So this it's called if you want to look at the research on all this red light stuff, you're going to want to use the keyword photobiomodulation. And there's tons of studies on photobiomodulation. And you could read, it's not just like quack stuff. Like this has actually been studied. And what's so criminal is if you go to a hospital, right? Say you your femur or something, or you have a heart attack.
Are you making threats or are you saying that this could
You
happen?
say, yeah, like say you like piss somebody off online, you disrespect them on a podcast, and something bad's to happen to you, and you get into
someone
a
loses a
hospital.
debate to you or
You
Maybe
what?
say you say you end
something,
up in a
maybe an
hospital.
accident's gonna happen. I don't know.
Right. Yeah.
Say somebody sends some goons from South America to maybe make you feel a little bit of pain in reciprocation for the pain you made him feel about his bald head earlier in the
I knew he was
podcast.
gonna say that.
But yeah, so you go to a hospital and what is it? It's freaking LED, white LED lights, and they give you a bunch of soy slop crap food,
Right.
right? It's like the worst place in the world to heal. You don't go to a hospital to actually heal. It's just a
Doctors
place.
are always unhealthy and nurses are fat.
Yeah, and they're just pushing like cookie cutter treatments, and it's a notoriously dangerous place to be as far as infections with the
Staph
antibiotic
infections.
resistant bacteria, yeah, staph like MRSA and all this stuff. But also the light there, it's horrible. I
Yeah.
mean, what they should be using is like these therapeutic red light devices, which you can get some of them relatively cheap. But if you want a high powered one, you kind of want one that's got enough juice behind it to really kind of penetrate deeper into the tissue. But that's what they should be using in every single hospital. And that would improve outcomes for so many
Sure.
people. People go to the hospital, I've got a friend who recently had to go to the hospital. He was there for like a week. And you can't sleep there. There's
No.
nurses constantly waking you up.
Right.
You're in the room with like five other people, and who knows what type of crap food they're giving you, and the lights are on all night.
Which are like
Yeah.
communist lighting, fluorescent lights.
Right, it's like literally torture devices. I mean, the hospitals are. I mean, look, I'm not. If I needed to go to a hospital, I go to a hospital. There's certain things you got to go to a hospital for. But yeah, like avoid at all costs. This is my whole thing with hospitals and all that. But yeah, red light. That's what they should be using in these freaking hospitals. And you can get some of these devices. Some of them are kind of expensive. We have one. I don't really know how the company is now, but 5, 6 years ago, 7 years ago, Joovv, Joovv. I don't think we have an affiliate code with them anymore, but they made some really nice red light panels. They're a little, I think there are other ones on the market now that are a better price. There's a company called EMR Tech, EMRTEK. I remember about 5 years ago, they had some good stuff. I'm not sure what they're doing now. I think I saw some of their influencer people are really obnoxious, and so I almost don't want to recommend that company because some of their influencer dudes that are shilling their codes are the most obnoxious people on Twitter and Instagram. But yeah, it works. They really work, and that's one of the things that is kind of worth the investment. If you're going to spend like $500 on something that you'll use every day, that you can actually feel, it's good for your eyes too, because
I
the
was gonna
blue
say, I
light,
wonder if it helps your eyes.
it does, it
Okay.
definitely does.
I
But
need to.
now, Most of the devices you buy now, I remember when I interviewed the guys from Juve back in the day, we talked about how it's good for the eyes, you
Okay.
know, that I look right into it and you look away and you get that, you know, the after image where you look at a bright light and
Yep.
afterwards you get that after image. It's really intense. You get that, but it really does because it vasodilates and it helps to heal tissues. And I use it directly on the eyes. And I think for legal reasons, they probably say like don't look it directly in the eyes on most of the devices. But I'm pretty sure there's a lot of research about it being really beneficial. But it's only like 20 minutes too that you need, right? Like 20 minutes with one of these high-powered red lights close to the eyes. That's why the thing behind me, it's a weak LED lamp, and I don't have it pointed straight at the puppies. It's just kind of the ambient light in the room, and then I turn that off when I go to bed. It's dark in here for the pups. But also animals, last one on the red light. So for chickens, for piglets, for any animal, for any farm animal that needs to be kind of climate controlled those first couple days, when piglets are born, they have no fat. Same with puppies. Puppies, piglets, they can't regulate their body temperature. So the piglets got to be like with the mom, and the mom, a lot of piglets get crushed after birth because the sow is, you know, 400 pounds, maybe more sometimes. She she'll like accidentally step on them or lay on them. And piglets will, there can be a litter of 15, 16 piglets. And if you don't set up their crate in the right way, a lot of them can die. But what we do is we set up when the sow is giving birth, we put them on the teat. We let them all drink milk, so they get their colostrum, they get their first milk, and then we set up this red light bulb, which I have another one behind me. It's not the one that's on right now, but it's a little bit different frequency. It's a red light bulb that gives infrared light, and it's warming, and it's like 16.50 or $17 for one of these bulbs. And if you leave it on all day and night, it lasts sometimes a month, sometimes less. And but this light is what keeps the piglets alive. So we put them underneath this lamp and then they learn, okay, after I drink, they immediately learn this. They can't even open their eyes. They immediately learn, okay, I drink and then I go over to this warm spot that the mother can't get into. So you kind of make like a barrier where the piglets can go under, but the mom can't go under. So then they go and they lay under their little hot lamp. They go out and they drink, and then they just go back and forth from that. And that's how you keep the piglets from dying here. That's how we do it. There's different methods people use, but
Trying to
and
figure out
that
what
light,
you're
it's
trying
a
to tell
red.
us that. So like Jamie sets up a lamp, I feed, and then I crawl under, and
So
then
I'm saying like
warm,
for
and I come
Jay's
out at night.
alcohol
Or how
habit,
does
like
this translate? How does this
look,
translate?
I'm not gonna
He
pretend like we
rolls
don't
over and squishes me.
don't pretend like you don't know what we're talking about. So after you've fed Jay with a funnel, right? I know you like you blend up like what do you blend up Wagyu steaks and
Roll
like
me under this thing
yeah.
into
So
a
after
hot
you
lamp.
make Jay's dinner, which is a you put Wagyu steaks and cheesecake in a Vitamix and then just funnel it into his mouth. And then when he becomes so drunk that he's like you put him on his side so he doesn't puke all over himself
Roll
and
me
go out like
underneath
Jimi
this
Hendrix.
thing.
You had to lay him on his side, flip him over so he vomits off the side of the bed. And then you could put the heat lamp over there next to it. So he'll just crawl to the heat lamp instead of
Yeah.
sweating out his whiskey on you.
Well,
That's
Jays don't have sweat glands.
I'm saying this is how we adapt the pig
Exactly.
practices to somebody with a lifestyle of an E
Catch
diva like
22.
Jay.
Yeah. Gross.
So yeah, anyway, we use them for chickens too. Like this, just a basic red light that emits infrared and like some near infrared and red frequencies. Use it on chicks, and that's how they keep warm and you keep them alive. But with us, it's like no white LEDs and you know all this crap that we know affects us. You can even hear some of these LEDs. This you could hear the like
Yeah.
weird frequency, like "Ring." They have this.
Yeah.
I can't stand those LED lights.
Yeah. Well, thanks guys for hanging out and talking about worms. And I think all the cool kids will be doing parasite cleanse and red light therapy.
Within reason. We're not supposed to go too far.
Right. And a steaming hot mug of colostrum and a puppy. Get a puppy and you
Look at
will
this
feel
puppy. He's so
much
cute.
better and make better
Little
decisions.
buddy.
And the worms will not be in your brain, making you do things. Okay.
Yeah. Thank you. That was actually good
Yeah.
information.
Yeah, thanks,
Nicole.
guys. That was fun.
Yeah. And we'll have to have you back on here. I'll have to figure out something else. Tristan Alley. Right?
Sweet. Yeah, this is great. It's an
You
honor.
mean the red light district?
The red light that's my my
where
other
Kristen
band
hangs
name.
out, yeah.
5D Consciousness and the Red Light District. Those are both my bands.
So cute. Okay,
Thank
nice.
you.